Okay, day four, American Progress by John Gast, 1872. So in today's lesson, you're going to be seeing this big painting here. So this painting, it's available on the Google Docs as well as a separate file that you can zoom in. But all you're doing is observing this painting. There's a lot of things going on in this painting. Now, just to give you a bit of background, this was made in 1872, and during this time period, this was a time period of what's called westward expansion of the United States. So the United States was expanding. We're familiar with the original 13 colonies, the 13 states, and how they grew a bit larger after defeating Great Britain. This is going to be a big time period of moving further and further west until ultimately we hit that west coast with states like California. Now, this was a time period of real big progress. If you take a look at this map, these are all different routes that people took to go west. So the Blue Line, Lewis and Clark, Santa Fe Trail, Oregon Trail, Pony Express, and the Transcontinental Railroad. So the red is the railroads that were being built from the east to the west, as well as different routes that would have been taken on horseback, covered wagon, things like that. So this painting kind of shows what's going on in the United States at the time. And there are many different elements to it. If you take a look at the middle, there's a woman there in a white robe, painted a lot larger than the other parts of the scenery. Take a look at the background there with the clouds. If you take a look at the back, there's some ships in the background, some trains, elements on the east side here, and on the west side here. So pay attention to all the different elements. What's going on in the front with these people? What's going on with these people on horseback? What are these animals in the background? And anytime you take a look at the visual source or painting, pay attention to all the details because the artist put everything there intentionally. Pay attention to what they're wearing. Pay attention to any facial expressions. Pay attention to the choice of colors. Are there darker colors in this painting? Are there lighter colors? Are there changes in color? Pay attention to things all the way in the back and all the way in the foreground in the front. Pay attention to the placement, the size of the objects. So you want to take a look at all those things. After you've taken a look at it, you're going to first complete the chart. So for this chart, make sure you type out all the observations that you see, and you can easily identify 15 different things or more in this painting. Use the picture. Do not use the map. We are analyzing the picture. And I actually gave you a first example. So the chart's going to ask for what I see, what I think, and questions I have. So the first one, I put a woman in the middle dressed in white. Very easily, that's what I see. And you can add any other details, maybe that she's holding a book. She's also holding some wire. She seems to be floating. What I think. Because of all that, I might write she might be an angel or somebody very powerful. I don't know. And then any questions that I have. I wrote here, what is she carrying in her hands? For one thing, the book, maybe what type of book is it? I don't know. Or possibly these wires, what are these wires? I don't know. So for all the observations of what you see, type what you think about it, what it might mean, and then any questions that you don't quite know. So you want to fill this out. I gave you slots for 6 different responses here. Again, you can find easily 15 or more things. So try to fill this up as much as you can. Once you're done with that, you're going to move on to the questions. And this reads here, this painting was created in 1872 by John Gast, who spent the majority of his life in Brooklyn, New York. Consider the following questions. So if we go back to the map, again, the background information, I told you guys that this is westward expansion. We are expanding a lot more to the west. So the direction to the left-hand side here. John Gass lived in Brooklyn, so he lived in New York, so he's all the way on the east side, so that's where he's from. So the first question is going to ask, what does the time period of the painting's creation tell you about its meaning? So it was created, again, if we go back to the map, it was created in time of westward expansion. The country was moving more and more west with different things like railroads, different routes. And it's asking, what does it tell us? The time period that it was created. What's the meaning of this painting? What might the author, the painter, John Gass, be trying to say? What does what does the author want the audience to get from it? Question number 2. Do you think this painting is an accurate depiction of the period? Do you think it's accurate? Do you think it reflects the time period well? Does it match? Yes, no? Explain. Whose perspective is the viewer getting through this painting? Whose perspective is missing? Okay, so this one's asking about perspective or point of view. Whose point of view is the painting created through? So I'll give you some hints. This one's a hard question. Let's go back to the top. So whose perspective is this painting showing? So whose point of view? So let's take a look at that map. It's all about westward expansion and how Americans are moving forward from the east to the west. And I'll give you a hint. It's asking whose perspective is it missing? So there are people living in the east, the Americans, and they're moving to all these lands here. Who lives in these lands in the west? What group of people might we have already studied that lives in America that aren't part of the United States? Would they be thinking the same way as America is progressing west? Would they create a picture like this? How would they feel about Americans moving westward? So this is all asking who created this, what point of view do they have, and whose point of view is missing. Lastly, what does the title of the painting tell you about the painter's perspective? So the title, again, the title is called American Progress. Go back to the top, American Progress. So that gives a lot of insight onto the intention and the meaning of this painting and the point of view of the author. American Progress. So America and progress means to progress, to advance, to move forward, to improve. So what does the title, American Progress, of the painting tell you about the point of view of this author? So again, you want to take your time, take a look at this painting. There's a lot going on here. This map just gives you a little background of what's happening in the United States right now at this time period. You are to fill out the what I see, the what I think, and questions I have, and then do these 4 questions.